All right. Well, first off, I just want to honor everyone for coming tonight. Wednesday night right now. You guys could be doing literally anything else, but you guys are here learning about real estate and things like that. So I just want to honor that. I also wanted to just send prayers out and just good energy to everyone that has been affected to the LA fires. I know I have a lot of friends and family out there too, and pretty devastating. So just sending some good energy out that way. Um, All right, but let me kick us off. One of the things that we're gonna be going over today is just how Jay and I were able to create, 100 grand of passive income in about 3.5 years. Um, Story's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies. We've had a lot of mistakes in our life, and we just want to make sure that we show you everything. And one thing I definitely want to make sure that we talk about is that this path was Jenny and I's path, but our path is different, than everyone else here, right? You guys are all different people in general. Um, what is this AI companion thing? Holy crap! There is literally AI taking over my screen. So we're gonna know that we're gonna show you what we did, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna be exactly replicatable for you guys. But my hope is that there's some little nugget in here that you guys can take for your guys' journey as well. Maybe some mistakes that you don't make as well, that you can avoid. My theme this year, guys, I've told a lot of you guys already, but my theme this year um, is depth, right? And I see a lot of familiar faces. Some too familiar, some that I see way too often. Matt, but uh, honestly, I see a lot of new faces too. So, for those who do not know me, this is my LinkedIn bio, I'll call it. Some accreditations or whatever it is. But, one thing I always want to mention is that all the things that we've done achievement wise is definitely not the things that I guess define us. Really, what I feel like defines us is who you are as a human being. For me, right now in this season of life, is to be a present father, a present husband, a son, a brother, friend. That's the identity that I cling to most. And the real estate is just something that I guess is a vehicle to help me be able to be a better version of all those identities that I have. So I'd love to kick us off, get a little bit of engagement going, but my theme is depth. I'd love for everyone to put in the chat if they have a theme going into this year that they're looking to follow. As I get my chat going here, again, I got a bajillion AI stuff. Do stuff with other people. Okay, Matt, I take offense to that, but okay, that's cool too. Anyone else? Any other themes that no excuses? Hell yeah. Tammy, you probably say that in your workout classes too. No excuses, play like a champion.
Literally
Optimize your
said that.
time. You really perfect. Live it all day. Get out of my comfort zone. I love that. Traveling with the family, more time for important stuff. Alina, it's great seeing you again. Hope you're acclimating back to life. Taking action, jumping in the pool, action. I love it. So I appreciate everyone that's been putting it out in the chat. One thing that I've kind of realized in our lives is that the more you put that out in the ether, the more it comes true, especially in a room of 70 other random people that you don't know. So I tell my theme to almost everyone I meet and see this year because I want to make sure that they know what it is, but also for my subconscious to know that that's how I want to act in all aspects. So transformation, purposeful action. Let's go. A lot of action. All right, what are we going to talk about today? All right, so a lot of action in there. Thank you for the headway in there, Alex. So yeah, number one, we're going to talk about taking action, right? And then we're going to be talking about just optimizing active income, creating passive income, so that you can focus on your passion income. And I'll leave some time at the end just to do Q&A and takeaways and all that stuff. So number one, what we always want for people in general, right, is to go from having what we call an active income, which we all have and had. It's a job, right? You trade your time for money, right? But as we all know, time and energy are probably the most important assets that we have, right? Eventually, we can use some of that extra active income to invest that into passive income vehicles. So things like real estate, stocks, right? Making money while you sleep. That's always fun. Uh, so eventually, right, not to just be able to buy a bunch of cool stuff like Lambos and G6s and Chanel bags, but to be able to have with time to focus on what we call your passion income, right? So this is the things that you love doing that hopefully creates impact as well. I like to call that your ikigai, which is a Japanese term for doing what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you're passionate about as well. So that's where we want to start, right? We want to start here on the passion side because if you don't have the passion, the why, then everything that we're talking about right now is just going to go in one ear and out the other ear, right? You need to tie emotion to it, right? And if you don't do that, then when it gets tough, and it will get tough in any kind of life, whether it's real estate or business or whatever it is, you're gonna give up because there's no emotion tied to it, right? And I'll give you a couple examples of that, right? So um, anything, look, think about any kind of memory that you had, right? Any kind of memory that you had that you can pull right away. There's always some kind of emotion tied to it, right? I don't know if you guys write in the chat maybe right now, like what's the first memory that popped in your mind? Actually, even this, what's the first memory that you've ever had in your life, right? Put that in the chat. I'll give you mine. Mine, if I think back to like the first memory I've ever had, it was my family was living in Hong Kong at the time, and we were moving. And I just remember being in the parking lot waiting for the taxi to come pick us up. And my emotion was like just super sadness and kind of confusion, if you will, right? And but with that being said, if you were to ask me, hey, Calvin, what did you have for breakfast that day, for example? I'd be like, I have no idea, right? I don't even remember that one little memory because there was no emotion attached to that breakfast. That was just an everyday thing, right? But there was emotion attached to me being in the parking lot waiting for that taxi of sadness, right? And so some people here might say, a birth of a child, right? Uh, Maybe it's, doing something with people that you love, family, kids, your parents. My parents, were first generation immigrants, right? And they grew up in, not the best areas of, New York and Boston. And I so appreciate them so much because they grinded and gave me an opportunity to do all this stuff. And I don't know if a lot of people have a similar story to that, but like, I freaking appreciate that so much. And for me, like what I always wanted to do is just find a way to give back to them, right? And so when I was able to, uh, we brought them to a private island for a vacation last year, and there's a little picture that we have right there. And our motto is like, yeah, we want to help people create passive income so they can go out and create massive impact, right? And that massive impact could be anything from family to impact to other things, whether it's helping out your own loved ones or community that you have as well. So I always like to start with that because that's always going to get you tied into when the times get tough, where you can get on to, right? But also to know that nothing in life is easy, right? And if you continue to do hard things in our everyday lives, then it becomes second nature, right? And so the other thing I always want to point out too is, it's beyond us, right? Like we don't do this real estate, making money or whatever, to just make money, right? We do it so that we can create more impact. And for us nowadays, it's not just take my parents out to awesome vacations, but yeah, we want to empower kids, right? Kids in need with financial literacy and give them scholarships to pursue higher education, right? So that's something that I'm super passionate about. Elena, I think you're on this call. Like, we were just down in Honduras, visiting an orphanage, and it's just so like gives so much perspective of like, wow, there's nothing that we can ever complain about, right? Because these kids had nothing, leaks in the roof, mold, no shower heads, no hot water, but they were the most full of love and joyous kids of all time, right? And that will always resonate with me forever, right? And so, can we do that and help more people realize that, right? Not be burdened, especially here in America, by any kind of financial burden as well. So, um, kind of going into on the real estate side, guys. So again, I'll share a little bit of our journey. At least for me, I was always taught in my mind that I was supposed to go get good grades in school and go get a good job and then climb the corporate ladder and have grandkids. And, that was going to be my whole freaking life. Right. And I remember like I never got the best grades, but, I was able to get into a decent enough school, Cal Poly, what up? Um, and was able to get into a nice tech job after that and thought I had made it. And, because, had a nice comfy title and a nice good industry that was growing like crazy. And what I found was a lot of emptiness. And what I found was like, dang, is this what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life? And I think that scared the crap out of me because, when we're children, the world is our oyster. We could be astronauts, we could be anything in the world, but when you become adult, it's like, is this really what is it? Right. And we kind of wanted to seek more, I guess, if you will. And um, you know, read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure a lot of you have. And if you haven't, you should absolutely add that to your list. But read that, got so inspired to be a real estate investor, did that, did absolutely nothing for a year, lost a bunch of money, which I'll go into here in a little bit. It's a mistake that don't want you guys to make, but was able to recover, mentally mostly, and eventually financially, and eventually was able to buy some out of state properties and make a bunch of mistakes on those, but uh, learn from those, did not make the same mistake on the next one, and just kept on that process until we got more confident and more, I guess, empowered that this actually made sense. And the big thing I just want you guys to get out of this timeline is that this doesn't happen overnight, right? Like I always kind of joke around like, oh, we were overnight success over, I guess, we started in 2016, so 8 years, right? Um, and you can kind of see from this to the graph here, like, it's not linear, right? Like, like it wasn't until probably like 2019 that it really felt like the real estate was kicking in, if you will, right? And so if you guys are on this call because you're like, hey, this is a get rich quick scheme, I'm going to be super wealthy tomorrow, next month, next year. That's not, right. What it is it's a get rich for sure over time, as long as you do it over time and stay in the game, right? And the cool thing about this, and my analogy of this always is, it's like a garden, right? You got to plant a seed in your garden, right? But that one seed isn't going to feed your whole family, right? But what that one seed may produce the fruit, and then what you can do with that fruit is you can produce more seeds with that, and you can plant those. And then that second tree comes up, and then you can plant more, and then you have four, right? And it gets eight, and it just compounds, right? And that's what real estate is, guys. So if you guys are taking anything away from this chart, one is that we have made a crap ton of mistakes along the way, and two, that it doesn't happen overnight, right? It just takes some time, right? But the first thing I want to, really talk through, right, um, is this, right? Active income, right? So trading time for money. We all have that. We all have had an option like that, right? Um, and I just want to talk about that because I think there's a lot of people like online now that will say like, oh yeah, like you could just make a bunch of money with no money, right? Like, no, it does take some kind of active income, right? Like, whether it's a job or something, right? And what I always say is like, you got to understand like what do you have, right? Like, what is your active income? Mine was I had a job that paid for performance, right? So the more time I put in, I actually could make more money, right? And I guess reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, got me inspired to be a real estate investor, right? But it doesn't really tell you how to do it, right? I think it's, I don't know if anyone's had that epiphany where you're like, oh, cool, I'm a, you read Rich Dad Poor Dad or you read some kind of book or podcast. You're like, I am a real estate investor now. I'm gonna go do it. For us, we were like, cool, we're gonna start an LLC. We picked a cool ass name. It was called Zen Coast Properties back in the day. That's why our thing is called Zen Coast. And we're like, cool, we have an LLC, but we didn't have any property. Right. So that was super not cool. Um, and we were just trying to figure out how to actually make this work, right? And so for those of you that don't know the story, but Jenny, my wife, my amazing beautiful wife, had heard a radio ad that said, hey, cool, if you want to learn real estate you should come to this conference, right? So she went to this conference, and I was like, I'm cool. I was like 21 at the time, 22, whatever it was. I was like, I'm gonna go party with my friends, right? And did that, and she tricked me. She was like, hey, Calvin, like, hey, can you come pick me up from this conference? And I was like, all right, cool, I'll pick you up. Super hungover. It was like Sunday. I walk in, everyone's like jumping around and all that stuff. The mastermind was called Fortune Builders. You can see there, FB there. And you know, I was like, this is a cult. I was like, man, like Jenny, I whispered to her, I was like, hey, don't join this cult. And she whispered back to me, I already did. And I'm like, whoa, time out. I was like, we have 6 grand in our bank account. How do we even afford this 30 grand program? Right. And, she's like, oh, cool. It's cool. They taught us how to max out our credit cards, which you shouldn't do. But, we were 21 years old at that time. We're like, all right, cool. Right. Then what the swipe has been swiped already. We are in. It was scary AF, right? But I think what it did for us was it created a really big sense of urgency of like, holy crap, we got to go. We got to go, 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 go. And so, um, I was in a sales job, right? In a sales job, we were able to, basically whatever time we could put in, it actually could have results, right? So, what it made me do was like, crap, we're in debt now, 30 grand. Like, let me go work really hard, right? It gave me a lot more motivation, I'll tell you that much, to pay that off, right? And it started to work a little bit, right? And started making some money on my active income job. And for those who don't have just a pure sales job. Maybe you're in tech, maybe you have something that you can do with RSUs or maybe even jumping around jobs, right? To increase that, right? But there's always something you can do in any role, right? Ours was just, hey, cool, you make more sales, you could do more, you can make more, right? And my kind of epiphany was like, oh, cool, if I make more, I can invest more. And if I invest more, I can eventually get out of my job, right? So it's kind of like this whole triangle, right? Like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I don't want to work, but if I do work, I can make more money. If I make more money, I can invest more. And if I invest more, I can make more money from real estate investing, and I don't have to work. So the thing that was helping me get out of it was the thing that was actually gonna, I was actually gonna leave, right? So that was pretty cool. And so I was able to do that, started making some money. And then kind of started to be more strategic about it, right? Like really starting to track how much money I was actually keeping. I don't know if anyone was like this in their early 20s or even now, right? I would say a lot of people that I know don't have control of their finances, meaning that they couldn't tell you how much they spend every month, right? And I didn't. I thought that I was making money. I was like, cool. I was making, my first job actually was like 47 grand. So it wasn't that much money. But when we started to, make some money there, I was like, oh, cool. I'm making some money. I'd be going out to dinners in San Francisco, right? There's SF mandate tax, all this stuff I didn't really realize. Ubers were expensive back then, right? And so, I'd be like, why is my bank account not moving now? Right. And in fact, actually, why is it going down? Right. And so, really started to track like why that was happening. And one of the biggest things I saw was that my rent was probably the most expensive thing, right, that I had. And so we were like, okay, if rent's the most expensive thing, how can we take that out? Right. And, you know, at the time I was living in San Francisco, five other guys with me. It was not a pretty house. It was not a clean house, we'll call it, but it was fine. It was, how you live like a 22-year-old. I was paying $1,500 in rent. I was paying my $400 quarterly parking ticket in San Francisco as well to make that fun. So my housing expense $1,500 a month, right? I was able to qualify for I think it was like a 3 or 5% down loan to get my first investment property or first house, which was a condo actually, which is a 1 bedroom, one den condo, 700 square feet. My PITI was about $1,200. My HOA was about $759. So all in about 2 grand. But the cool thing was that we actually started renting out uh, via MTR before MTR was really a thing to boot camp coders in San Francisco, right? That would do like 6 month programs. And so we would actually raise the rent. Like we would literally rent out a den with a curtain to these coders. And I don't know if anyone's a coder on here or went through a boot camp like that, but at that time, a lot of these coders like did not give a crap about what their living situation was. It was like wake up, code, come back to sleep, wake up, code, repeat, right? And we were charging $1,200 for that den. So my living expense actually went down to $759. So I cut that in half. And if you don't think that's significant, it is. I've done the calculations. I mean, one, obviously on the just outflow of cash, like you're saving, $750 a month. But, I'm getting equity pay down as well. I'm getting appreciation of my condo, and get a little bit of the tax advantages as well, right? And so, I owned that condo for I don't know, like I think like 4 years or so, and I think it ended up being like a 200 grand difference, right, of what that actually made me. So, that's a huge start right there, right? So, Mike, I know you just got your fourplex, right, that you're about to house hack. I think that's going to be absolutely crazy. Um, yeah, you said that
That's the
problem too, man.
plan.
Yes, sir. So you're on that same exact path, brother, and that's awesome, man. So awesome. So now we've got this. Our house budget is out. I haven't done any investment properties at this point, right? I'm still feeling like an imposter. I'm feeling like an absolute noob at this point still. Um, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but if you guys have got into real estate, I know all of the Zen coasters here, like there's so much fear around it, right? There's so much like doubt, I guess. Like, for me, that was absolutely the same case, right? I put offers in, I'd take them out, retract them because I was scared because they got accepted. I'd actually had to do it. So that was like scary, right? And I don't know, we had just like not done anything in like a year and a half. I got the condo, right? That was about it. And you know, I tell the story now, but like we were just like we were so over. We're like we just gotta go do something. I gotta stop like talking about it. I gotta like be about it, right? And I actually take some action. And so action's great. I think that's amazing. But strategic action, I would say that's a caveat, like, smart action, if you will. And for us, we were just so excited. We're just like, oh, we're just gonna go do it. And we're like, let's go find another investor, right? And then we can, give them money, and then we'll be investors that way, right? And so we found a flipper doing a flip in Twin Peaks in San Francisco here, and we're like, all right, let's be a private money lender, right? And that way we can learn, right? And we were so excited, like we got like, our hammer, right? We were demoing and stuff, and we were private money lender for her, handshake agreement, all that stuff. And went to the closing table after the deal closed, and I'll never forget these words. She said, "Hey, Jenny, hey, Calvin, I don't have your money." Uh, she had moved it over to a development project in Reno without ever telling us, and that project went belly up, and she went bankrupt. And so, yeah, we lost, all that $100,000 that we gave to them. That was all of our money at that point, all of our savings account. It was an absolute gut punch. But a couple learning lessons there. One is, one, have resilience, but two, this little picture right here, have a promissory note. Make sure that you actually get a promissory note to make sure that you are entitled to that in case something like that happens. Didn't know that back then. We were just young, naive, investors. But I would say Jenny did a really great job of saying like, hey, like it's okay, like this sucks, sure, but we got to make sure that we just never make the same mistake ever again, right? And you know that's always stuck with me, right? Of like, okay, like you're right, like we can always recover from anything, right? And that's where the resilience piece comes in. Um, cool. So now we're stuck at nothing. Thankfully, have that active income there that's helping produce some savings for us again, rebuilding that. And what I'd say, guys, is like take some time to build back up, but everyone is different, right? Everyone is different in terms of the situation that they have, right? So like, for us, we had our active income job still, so that was helping us recover. We were house hacking, so that was helping us save and stack more faster as well. Um, but again, what works for us and what didn't work for us, like, may or may not work for you guys, right? And I just want to make sure that, at the end of the day, you guys are all using your brain, right? Like, come here, like, I like to educate people by like actually teaching them how to do it, right? So that, when a situation comes to them, they can actually make their own decision on it, right? In general, right? And so for us, like, what is your strategic advantage? Like, I would like to kind of say, like, okay, you have three assets in life, right? You either have time, knowledge, and that's or capital. You gotta have at least two of these, right? And so, um, at this time in our lives, like, we had a little bit of time and baseline knowledge and not as much capital because we just lost it all, right? And you know, I'd encourage you guys to understand for yourself. Okay, what do I have? Do I have time, knowledge, or capital? And which two do I have? If I don't have one of these, how can I work on getting the other one? And if time is something that you don't have, I encourage every single one of you to go on your phone right now. Actually, let's do that. Let's do that right now. Let's go. Everyone, pick up your phone, your iPhone, Android. I don't know if this has the same feature. Pick up your phone right now and go to your settings and go to screen time. Right? Screen time. Okay. And I'm gonna call someone, and I want to hear what your guys' number is. Go to screen time and understand how much screen time do you have and what app you're using. And if it's Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or something like that, and how many hours you have in that, that's how many hours you actually have that you can bring back into your week. Right. So I'll call, who do I have on my screen here? Let's see. If you don't have time as a thing, let's see. Lioness. What's your screen time say? What app do you have the most time on?
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that my name showed up as that. But
But I love it though.
I don't have it act like I don't have I have an iPhone, but it is not turned on as far as the apps and website activity.
Okay.
So that's interesting. But I am at screen time, so it might be helpful to look at someone else. I can tell you right now, don't spend a whole lot of social media time, so it's
Okay.
likely going to be email or Teams.
Okay, then you're the wrong person to call on this. You have all the time, but maybe the knowledge and the capital, right? So there you go.
Yeah.
Who here has screen time up and is looking at their screen right now and saying, "Holy crap, I have a lot of random ass time on random ass apps." Andrew, you're smiling. I'm calling you. What's your screen time and what's the app?
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to unmute myself. Um, Social media, 5 hours.
Dang. All right, dude. So you got 5 hours a week that you could have back
Yeah.
in a week. Okay. Charlene, 2 hours. The most being 45 minutes of screen time. That's pretty good. That's awesome, right? So if anyone's excuse is that I don't have time, like just look at your screen time, right? And if you have 5 hours of scrolling or whatever it is, then you at least have 5 hours you can get back in your time. Another tip that is that if you can have the limits on there too. Um, I actually had Jenny delete TikTok off my phone. That's helped me a lot. But I have 15 minutes of Instagram and YouTube, and there's those things pop up all the time, like, oh, you're at your 15 minutes, and yeah, do I always say turn off the Instagram? No, but it gives me more awareness that I am spending more than 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever it is, on that time. So, all right, cool. All right, so I'd love to play a game, guys, right? So, time, knowledge, and capital. We got those three kind of assets that we all have. Now I'm gonna pick kind of two, and I'd love to kind of make this interactive of like, okay, what if I had those two things, what could be a potential good path in real estate for you? Meaning, long-term rental, short-term rentals, burring, multi-family house hacking. Let's play a game, right? Of what that could look like. So if I were to say, hey, I got a lot of time and knowledge, but not a lot of capital, what could be a potentially good path, right? Come on off mute. Let's have an open discussion about it. Lioness, still the name, but I love it. What do you think?
Certainly. I mean, it's certainly advantageous to leverage, the other two if you're missing one of those or vice versa. Um,
Yeah.
that's probably, I would say, and right now, time is pretty limited, but I do have more of that than I have of capital. So I would probably go with a bit of time and a bit of knowledge that I could improve upon. And of course, capital I'll continue to work on gaining.
Cool. Got it. But okay, so the question would be if you had time and knowledge, what could be a good potential, type of deal that you go after, right? But
Oh,
maybe not as much capital.
sure. Yeah. So I'd probably go after a JV deal where I would
Yeah.
probably seek out someone who has the capital and come together.
Yeah. I love that. So a partnership, a JV. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Another thing you
Excellent.
could do, yeah, you could raise capital, right? You can raise capital, maybe get a private money lender, right? You do
Right.
deals that way. You could explore creative financing, right? Because those take more time to find, but you have time and you have knowledge of how to do it. So, maybe you do a sort of financing deal or sub two deal, right? So,
Oh, I would
no,
love that.
exactly. So again, yeah, those two things, great. You can at least do something. So let's talk about. So thanks, Linus. Appreciate it. What's your name? And that's is it not Lioness? I imagine, right?
It's Liz.
Liz. Okay. Thanks, Liz. All right. Cool. Let's go. If I had so Tammy, I'm gonna call on you. If I had capital and knowledge, not a lot of time, what would I do? What are some potentials?
You could probably outsource, either hire someone, you could get like a VA, like a virtual assistant, or
Yeah.
partner with someone who has more time and less capital, which is basically the reverse situation. Um,
Hmm.
and then kind of have them put together as much of the information that you might need so that you can effectively use your time that you have and analyze the small, like a more selected, filled out mass
Yeah.
amounts of deals, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah, you can hire VAs, you can partner with other people, you can partner with people that have time and knowledge, right? Yeah, you could do very simple deal, just like an LTR deal. Right? Those LTR deals that are just, normal deals. They're not crazy. You can do commercial where you actually have a team, right? That you don't maybe have to spend all the time, but you can have, partners in that and do bigger deals like that. Cool. All right, let's do the last one. Charlene, I see you on my screen. What about time and capital? If I had time and capital about knowledge, what would be some good ideas?
Time and time and capital. Well, capital, start investing. STR, LTR, flip. I mean, depending on what quadrant you want to be in. Cash
Yeah.
flow appreciation. Time. I mean, you know, get smart, learn the skills you need, give back. network, community. I think there's a place called ZCU you can go to.
Yeah. Yeah. Quick plug. Absolutely. Yeah. So you can hire people to help you get there, right? You could seek out knowledge base. You could partner with people in general, right? That do have more knowledge than you, right? So absolutely. So love that. So based on all this stuff, guys, like, I challenge everyone to think about that as they think about their own, I guess, buy box criteria of what you have next. Like, what's your advantage? Like, what can you actually do, right, in general? And again, for us in this situation that year, right, we had not done any real estate properties. We're building back our stuff. We had, like I said, a little bit of knowledge and a lot of time, right? So Jay and I would do a lot of stuff. We would just network a lot. We would call brokers all the time, right? We used to, our date nights used to be driving for dollars, right? I would drive around and she would have a notepad and we would just write down addresses of houses that look beat up. Yes, those are our date nights. We'd go to Costco, get the yellow letters and red pen, and we would literally handwrite. And when I mean us handwriting, I mean my handwriting is terrible. Jenny would handwrite a lot of these letters, and we'd send them out manually, right, to owners and stuff. So there's no excuses, guys. Like, find a way, but find a way to have at least two of these things, right? And so for us, not having a little bit of knowledge, not a lot of capital, and some time, for us, we're like, hey, we have enough to at least go out of state. Can't afford a team in California, but we can go out of state, right? And so that's what we did. Our first two deals were out in Texas, in a town called Mesquite, Texas, and the other one was in San Antonio, Texas, right? So, $140,000 deal, 25% down, was pretty much turnkey. I'll give you guys a quick story on that. At that point, like, my confidence was pretty shook, of course. And, I was talking to turnkey companies, which again, I'm not the biggest fan of, but, I was talking to them to kind of just get a gauge of what they were doing and where they were investing and stuff and where their deals were. And while I was valuing one of their deals, this Mesquite, Texas property, it was a Mesquite, Texas deal. And they were asking 180 grand for this property. And I was like, okay, let me analyze the comps in the neighborhood. And I realized that this this $140,000 house was down the street. It was the same exact square footage, same exact bedroom, bath, also had been renovated. I was like, this is 40 grand cheaper, but the rent will probably be close to the same, right? So why don't I just buy that one? And that was what I did, right? And that's how I got into my first investment property. I called my aunt, who was a realtor down there. I was like, hey, put an offer in for this deal. And she said, don't you want to look at it first? I was like, just put an offer in and we'll figure it out tomorrow, right? And I got the phone. My heart was beating a million miles an hour. I was like, did I make a mistake? I don't know, but we'll figure it out tomorrow. The rest is history. And, for the most part, like, we made some mistakes along the way on this one, but I would never take it back because it got us in the game and made us take action. And the big mistake that we really made on this one was that, yeah, I just didn't account for ACs, breaking, here in San Francisco. I was living in San Francisco at the time. There was no AC there at all, right? So I was like, what's an AC, right? And I guess Texas gets pretty hot. And the first year, the AC broke and all the cash flow I did have went to that, but all good, lesson learned, right? And that kind of got me to my second deal. I was like, all right, I'm running out of capital more again. And San Antonio was just a cheaper price point at that point. It was a 125K deal. And started to do a little bit of more renovation on that one, right? I was like, all right, let me just like test that out and see, how I can value add, if you will. And that kind of got me to start to understand contractors, how to vet them, and what contracts to put in place. Not to say I did it all perfectly, but again, learned some lessons there. But that one's been awesome for us. We still have the same tenant. The very first tenant that we got there is still at that unit and is amazing. That cash flow is, I think, over $1,000 now. So something to kind of point out to the guys is that, yes, in the beginning it ended us $500 there, and that was a 5% rate. But over time, we've owned that for, I don't know, a long, long time now. And now it cash flows us $1,000 a month, right? And it's probably the most low-key property I have. And it shows you that if you just get in the game and stay in the game, like, the stuff gets better, right? Over and over again, because guess what? Rent typically goes up, right? Your expenses typically kind of stabilize. So you kind of know exactly what you're getting into. And from that point too, I've actually refied that property a couple of times, right? So now we have like a 3.2% rate on that. So awesome. From there, I think it was just like, okay, cool. I got these, great. But I think, like a lot of people on this call that I know, Alex, I'm looking at you right now. It's like, oh, cool. Single families are great, but they were time consuming, right? And I was like, let me just, can we do this, but on a bigger scale, right? And everyone that we were networking with that were like seasoned investors, like they were doing bigger projects, like multifamily stuff. So I don't know, man. I always had this like fear in my mind that I put it on a pedestal of like, oh yeah, like I'm not good enough to do multifamily deals because that's what the big boys play at and all that stuff. And um, I don't know why, right? That was just kind of my thing, and I was also scared of it because when you go from buying $150,000 properties to like $1 million property, it is scary, right? Because it was an additional comma, right, and additional perceived risk, right? But at the same time, I was like, you know what, like what's to lose? Like let's just go test it out, right? And for all y'all that are trying to like look and find deals, this one, our first multifamily deal, literally was by us going out and networking. And we went to a conference here in Oakland, California, met this it was a Brazilian couple who had that we were like totally looked up to, and we're like, wow, these guys are badass. And we just kind of got to know them better, and had lunch with them at the conference, and then after the conference we grabbed dinner with them, and then like months later we grabbed lunch with them again. And it's just the power of networking, right? And I remember at that one dinner, right, they were like, hey, cool, we're trying to sell our 16 units in Kansas City, so that we can go buy bigger projects. And I just remember Jenny was like, hey, we'll buy them, like we'll buy it. And they're like, well, you don't even know the price. And we're like, I don't care, we'll buy it, right? And because we had networked with them, and they become friends of ours and mentors of ours, like they're just, hey, cool, like we did an off market sale, and they gave us a very, very, very fair price. And yeah, and I'll kind of break down the numbers here with you guys, right? So end up being about $4,800 a month in expenses. We bought it, I think, for each fourplex, I think it was like around 180 grand, right? So I think all of them was like 700 grand or something like that, 750 grand or something like that, right? And one of the things I'll always mention is, when you buy multifamily, one of the biggest ways to make it work is by one, having tight operations, right? So I know, a couple of y'all probably have multifamily right now, but like what I learned on this deal was if you don't know your numbers, then you're not going to be able to make data-driven decisions. And what multifamily is on the grand scheme of things is just like a little mini business, right? That you got to look at the P&Ls on, right? So Mike, you got your fourplex, look at the numbers every month at least, right? Look at the P&Ls and understand, okay, where's my money going? Where's my money coming in, right? If you don't know that, then you're never going to make the right data-driven decisions, right? And so for us, I had known that our monthly expenses were about $4,800 a month, but I noticed that like the last couple of months was like 11 grand. I was like, what is that, right? And you know, one of the things that we figured out was, okay, well, it's coming from our utility bills, right? Typically water and electricity. So if y'all have heard me talk a lot, like I love talking about toilets because you can save a lot of money for toilets, right? And LED lights, but it's not as sexy for sure, right? And so a lot of it was water, right? And so what we did an evaluation on was, okay, cool. A lot of these toilets were from the 80s, right? And in the 80s, things were just not very efficient back then, right? And every flush took 5 to 8 gallons of water. Like 5 to 8 gallons of water, that's insane, right? Modern toilets are like 1.6, right? And so think about that, right? Every flush. I don't know how many times you guys go to the bathroom a day, but if you drink a lot of water like I do, you go a lot, right? And so that adds up over 16 units. So what we did was, I don't know if anyone know what cost of a toilet costs at Home Depot, a low flow efficiency toilet, right? I'll tell you this much. Yeah, about 120, 250. Okay, 250 is like those fancy ass ones, Yeah, about 120, buck 20, right? So buck 20, buck 20 is kind of what it was, right? So we're like, all right, like if we spend 120 bucks times 16, right? But it can lower our expenses by 5 gallons per flush. That's gonna be a lot of money, right, that we're saving. And that was right? And so what ended up happening, I think it saved us about 5,600 bucks a month of cash flow, right? Because we weren't paying for all this water bill, right? And it cost us $2,000 for the toilets, for the material and the install. And so, yeah, if you do that in commercial real estate, what that effect is that you increase your NOI, right? And so you increase your NOI by $67,000, right? That's how much we increased it by. And at a 6.5 cap, right? And if you do that math, $67,000 of an increase in NOI divided by a 6.5 cap, which is the trading cap in that area. That's $1 million of additional value on that asset, right? So that was like a holy crap moment of like, wow, this is really where you can make some change, right? And this cash, and this deal, was the one that really started to, make our cash flow go up a lot, right? And so we're like, okay, cool, like let's go do more. This is awesome. But Mike, like he said, we ran out of moolah, right? We were house rich, cash poor, right? And so, do we charge our tenants for utilities? So for water, we didn't, because it was just the building itself. For electricity, we were like kind of building that into the rent of like, oh yeah, cool. Like we'll build like, instead of the rent being $700, we'll charge $720, right? Instead. So indirectly, yes, on the electricity, but the water we were paying for, right? Yeah, nowadays, yeah, Patrick, yeah, nowadays we charge, I think it's like $75 on top of the rent for all utilities, and we don't pay electricity. We just pay for water. So that rubs really is for electricity, trash, and pest, and common area maintenance. So, all right, cool. So ran out of moolah, right? So this is when we're like, all right, cool. Like we want to continue to go. Like this makes sense, but how do we actually do it, right? So the acronym OPM, other people's money, was what we started to do, right? And we wanted to our strategy at this point. So now we had some knowledge, right? We had time as well. But we didn't have capital, right? So we're like, let's leverage other people's money. And Liz, you said, did you take advantage of any ancillary income opportunities? Yeah. So eventually, what we did was we did washer and dryers as well, right? And we're talking about adding like parking, like shaded parking, in these units, so that they can be upcharged as well. So that can be other income. So what Liz is talking about, what a big part of multifamily too is it's not just your rental income, but a lot of income you can get is other income, right? So, utility income, other income from laundry units, Amazon lockers, shaded parking, things like that. You can make some money from that too. So awesome. So yeah, so then again, still had some good time, had a lot more knowledge now, but didn't have a lot of capital. So we're like, all right, let's use other people's money, right? So here's the next deal that we did was a Burr, right, in San Antonio. So we did $72,000 of cash. That was 100% borrowed through private money lenders. My private money lender was my older sister. Thank you, older sister, for that. Big shout out there. But $72,000 cash there. And then our rehab was $25,000, which is insane. This is a small house, like 1,200 square feet. So our all-in price was about $97,000. So again, like our strategy here was to do the Burr method, right? Because we wanted to recycle capital and also use other people's money. Our first one too. So I just wanted to, start small and understand how to actually do it. So surely kind of similar to what your strategy is right now, right? It's like, oh, let's start small and do a Burr, prove out the model, and then scale, right? And so that's what we did, right? So 97K, I actually thought the appraisal, I was like, all right, maybe like if I can get like 130K as an appraisal, I'll be pretty stoked on that, right? And get some money back out and stuff like that. Also part was this appraised at 155K. So, we got a 75% loan to value on the new appraised value. That got us 116K back, right? So again, first call of the year, my math's really bad, but it's 116K more than 97K? Yeah, it is, right? So you got all your money back out, which is awesome, plus a little bit of profit too. But we still own this property, which is awesome, right? And it rents it out for about $1,200 a month. All in expenses was about $1,044 a month. So cash flowed about a whopping $156 a month, right? So that's as much as a boba in San Francisco at this point. But we still own the asset, right? And it still was cash flowing. And I got all my original capital back out so I could recycle and do it again. Now, eventually, we turned this property into a short-term rental, which was awesome. So again, if you guys have had long-term rentals in the past, I always say, hey, have different exit strategies if you can do STR, right? And we knew this worked as an LTR, which is why we felt comfortable doing it as an STR to see if that worked. So in case if it ever didn't work, we could always go back to LTR, right? So anyways, so now its cash flow is a little bit more than that, which is awesome. And so yeah, so now we proved it out and we're like, okay, let's do, did a couple more single family ones, and eventually we're like, same kind of model, like let's try to buy back our time, right? And here's the deal that I love because it's the one that really got me out of my job, right? And so I would say this is our first like actual commercial multifamily. As the other 16 unit that we did, it was kind of we bought quadplexes at a time, and they were all residential loans. Like this was our first commercial real estate deal, and as you know, NOI and cap rate, that's what's important in a commercial deal, right? And so when we bought this, the NOI was trading at $67,000 a year, which given a valuation at a six cap of 1.26 million. We were able, our projected, our pro forma NOI was getting up to 105K. And we thought that it could give us a valuation of 1.75 million, right? And my thought process on this was, guys, like, I could continue to do this on single family homes, but if I was going to get $156 a month of cash flow from these, and this like took me like 6 months to do, like, that was going to be a lot of work, right? That wasn't efficient of my time, right? And so, I was like, all right, these multifamily, the first one, it kind of was the same amount of time, but it was 3 to 4x, right? The return, right? Because and also 3 to 4x to down and stuff like that. But still, like if you know what you're doing and you have more knowledge, then it makes more sense, right? And so at this point, we kind of had all three. We had, probably had less time at this point, but we had the knowledge and we had capital, right? So then we're like, all right, cool. Let's go do this. Let's do the burr on this one too, on multifamily. So, bought this property, 16, and this was in Huntsville, Alabama, 1.1 million down, 20% down on commercial loan. We renovated all the units, was about 50 grand just to, luckily this property was a 1999 build. So it wasn't a crazy amount of work that we had to do to it. We just had to like do some paint work. The floors were great. So just cleaning the floors. And little tip, there's a cabinet, just painting cabinets and, adding handle pulls to the cabinets goes a long, long way. And same with paint, right? So that's what we did on these properties. We were all in for 283K down and the rehab. Got all the units rented. I think we bought these units for like $650 on rent. We got them up to like 950. Now they go for like 1,000 in rent us. So, got the NOI up to about 105K a year, right? And so valuation wise, we refied it, got a six cap valuation at 1.75 million, did a 68% loan to value. So got a new loan up for 1.2 million, paid off the old loan of about 900K. And we had about 300K back to us. So again, same math equation. Is 300K more than 283K? Hell yeah, it is, right? And so we were able to get all our original money back out of the deal. We made 600K of equity in this deal, and it's still cash about $3,500 a month. But again, the big difference here is that we get to do it again, right? And this is really where we start to use a lot of our tax advantages, right? So now networking with people, we're like, oh, are you paying taxes and stuff? And so, if you haven't heard of accelerated depreciation, it's something that real estate investors leverage a lot. As long as you have a cost seg study, as long as you are reps status or real estate professional status, meaning that you have 750 hours of real estate or real estate professional work a year, and or if you're a W-2, one more hour in your W-2, then you can claim real estate professional status. And what you can do is essentially take your depreciation all up front. And that can bleed up into any kind of active income you or your wife may have. That's why Jenny and I got married, out of love of not paying taxes and out of love, right? But it's a great way to not pay taxes, because what you can do with this is that you save some money on taxes, right? But you should go buy a Maserati with that? No, you should go out and do what? You should go buy more real estate with that, and that's how you can really accelerate. And when we did that, that's really when we were able to accelerate really fast in our real estate journey. Right, and here's our cost seg from this actual report on this property. So all to say, guys, like this is great, creating wealth. And, I'd say when I first got into real estate investing, I was very achievement focused, meaning that I did care about the next deal and getting out of my job and all the passive income. And, I think that, I was like, oh, if I hit, 6 figures of passive income, then I'll quit my job, right? And I'll be happy, right? And really what happened was the opposite. I felt really empty, right? I was like, cool. As we started to make more passive income, I was like, let me go buy the nice thing. So I bought a Porsche, right? Got a Porsche. And guess what? That made me feel way more empty, because that didn't really make me feel fulfilled or happy at all, right? And so I preface that, and I want to drill this down so much deep into everyone here, because that is truly what this is all about, right, guys? Like, don't just go, create wealth to just make money and buy nice shit, but to go help other people, right? And that's our true ethos, man. You guys can go, create wealth, yes, fill your cup, but then be able to pour in other people's cup. Like that's what truly is true wealth, right? So go help. Our motto is go help people create passive income so that they can go create massive impact in this world. And if we can go create a culture around everyone else that they want to go help other people, right? Then that's compound effective impact that I know I was super excited about, right? So end of the day, guys, some takeaways here is you're your own unique person no matter what, right? So use your brain, right? Use your brain to understand, okay, in my current situation, like what makes the most sense, right? Do I have time? Do I have knowledge? Do I have capital? If I don't, okay, if I don't have two of those, how do I get one more of those? And then if I have two of those, then what kind of deals, who should I be surrounding myself with? Should I be doing, right? And that we're all going to have challenges, right? But suffering is a choice, right? To choose to suffer about these challenges is totally up to you, right? We choose to, when we lost 100K, we chose to say, all right, this does suck, but how can we make this a positive? How can we make this a learning lesson, right? So you have a choice always in every situation. Make sure you go take action and learn, right? Even from mistakes, like just go out and do it. And every deal that you do, you're going to learn a crap ton. Alex, you just did your flip. I'm sure you learned a crap ton, right, from that flip, right? You're going to take that on for the rest of your freaking life, right? And then once you learn, scale, right? Go learn, go do it in a safe environment, and then scale it up, right? And then once you scale, give back, right? And as you give back more, you'll find that you're going to feel a lot more fulfilled, and you're going to feel a lot more happy about everything, right? In general, and that's truly what we're trying to do at the end of the day. Is not make money to be, well, yeah, maybe it is make money to be happy, right? That is what it is. But what is happiness? It's not just making money; it's about giving back, right? So, all right, guys. I appreciate all the time. My only last slide here, guys, is this right here. If you are in the Bay Area, sorry for not. If you're not, but for all my Bay Area peeps, we're going to be doing a 2-day immersion boot camp here in the Peninsula in Burlingame on February 22nd, 23rd. If you're in Zen Coast, it's free. Come on by. We're going to do a whole weekend of just like going deep on workshopping, like strategy, like, I'll try to individualize it. I'd love to meet with every single person there live and, just create more depth, right? That's my theme. And if you're not in Zen Coast, then you can use this code here, I am Zen, for a 50% off ticket. It's $20. So if it's 50% off, it's $10. We just want a little skin in the game, right? For you guys to show up and actually be committed to something, right? So February 22nd, 23rd, if you guys are there, looking forward to kind of deep diving with everyone there. This is the QR code to sign up there, and looking forward to it. But other than that, you guys want to get more involved, want to create more impact with us in our nonprofit, here's a QR code for that. If you want to invest with us in the future, that's our website there. If you want to get mentored by us, that's our Zen Coast University website. If you want to heal with us in Hawaii, which I'll see a lot of y'all out there tomorrow, you can scan that QR code there as well. But in that's all I got for you today. I'm happy to stick around and answer whatever questions that you guys may have. Any questions, you guys can just come off mute, and happy to chat through whatever.
I have a question, Calvin. So like I put a comment there a little bit earlier, but my utilities bill for the quadplex last year grossed about $20,000 a year, which I think is about double what it should be. So I got the inspection report back, and I'll have to double or look over it again, but there's absolutely some leaks that are occurring throughout the property.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that's contributing also to it. But I mean, maybe, I don't know if there's anything else that you recommend checking, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so leaks are typically going to be on like toilets are like the biggest one. It's so toilets and sinks, right? So pretty easy thing. So one of your property manager or inspector can do, they can actually go and open like the drawer underneath the sink, see if there's like water stains there. So you can kind of see where that is. And the other thing that I have found that happens a lot, especially with toilets, I'll go back to my toilet things, but in the back of the toilet, there's a rubber stopper, right? And again, I don't know the science between toilets. If anyone's a toilet engineer, let me know. But that rubber stopper sometimes gets worn out. And so what will happen is that water will continue to leak through it, right? And that will cause water to run, right? And so we had a leak like that in one of our properties, and we were like, hey, how do we got a leak detection company out, and they couldn't find anything. right? And so what we did find eventually was like, yeah, it was just a rubber stopper, right? That, with like $2 at Home Depot to get, right? And, we just installed those all in all the toilets, right? Because they're all low flow toilets too. And that cut our bill like in half, right? So that could be one thing. You probably the way to really kind of dictate that is because utilities can be anything, right? It could be water, it could be electricity, it could be gas, all that stuff, right? And so what
Yeah.
you want to figure out is, okay, where does that really come from? Is it water? Is it electricity? Is it gas? Which one's the most, right? And then from there you can kind of start to like realize, okay, what is that really, right? And so bath toilets definitely going to be the biggest one there. If you can't find it still, you can hire a leak detection company, right? It's totally worth it because if you can stop those leaks, it's going to save you a crap ton. And then like earlier, I think someone said, yeah, if you implement rubs, which is like a bill back for utilities, that's huge, right? So a couple ways to do that, Mike. You could either do it a flat fee, right? You kind of do the math on it, like, okay, well, 20 grand a year, we have 4 units, divide that by 4, divide that by 12. That's how much it costs per unit. You can do it by per unit. You can do it by per how many people are in each unit. You can you can install these like smart things that will kind of calculate the water usage and stuff and charge back that way. Not my recommended. That's probably the hardest thing because it takes a lot of like number crunching and all that stuff. So we do flat. Like we just say, hey, cool, we have this many units. It's our flat amount that we charge, right? But that number is based off of how much our average annual spending utilities are.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing, Mike. Sorry. Try to get electricity and gas out of your room. So water is tough in a fourplex because typically there's only 1 meter on those.
Yeah.
If you have 4 meters on it, I would never try to have any kind of utilities in your name, right? But typically water is 1 meter, right? But electricity is typically 4 meters, right? If you have a quadplex. So I would absolutely renewal time, just say that cool. Like I'm not gonna raise your rent, but what I am gonna do is I'm gonna take electricity on my name, right?
Okay.
And then rock and roll from there. So that'll help you a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, rock and roll. Andrew, what's up, dude? I saw your chat here. Let's see. Why would you buy 16 bucks only using commercial loan or force it to fourplexes using a residential loan? Yeah, so there's pros and cons of both, right? I'll put it this way. The pros of doing the 4 sets of fourplexes, right, is that I have residential loans on each of those at 3.5% on 30-year amortization, 30-year fixed loans, right? It's awesome. It's like nothing, right? Now my $1 million, 16, unit property, it is 25-year AM, 3.75%, but it's a 10-year term on the loan. I mean that in 10 years the note's due. So in 2030, 2031 or something like that, after I refi it after 10 years, like it's due, right? So it depends on your exit strategy on it. If your exit strategy is to hold forever, yeah, I mean 4 sets of fourplexes at 3 point whatever rate. I mean that's great, right? On 30-year fixed, I mean 30-year fixed mortgage is like the best loan product out there, right? In Canada, they only have like 5-year loan products, right? And it's insane. So now, like you said too, they are evaluated differently, right? So the 4 sets of well, it depends, right? So actually, the 4 sets of fourplexes becomes a 16 unit. So as long as it's in a similar corridor, like mine's are, I could sell them as a commercial deal because they would get a commercial deal on it.
Okay.
Right. So you could still evaluate it that way. So, but if it was like a fourplex here and a fourplex, in the town over and a fourplex, over there, I don't know if that would be the best move. Typically fourplexes like that, it's tougher, right, to manage, unless like, Mike are living there. So yeah, and it'll be evaluated as residential.
So which way would you say, like if you're trying to grow your passive income, like which strategy would be faster, knowing that let's say you will both exit in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, knowing what I know now, I would just do the actual commercial deal, right? Because when you're buying a commercial deal, you're also buying it at the cap rate of the area, right, of what the NOI actually is. So typically, you're going to be buying a deal that cash flows on day one, right? If you're buying a fourplex, you don't know if that's going to be cash flowing from day one. Like it might, but you just don't know, right? Because it's not evaluated off of cap rate and NOI. It's evaluated off of, hey, that other fourplex sold for that much, or that duplex sold for that much, and it's similar square footage. So, we'll kind of give them a little bit more because that's 2 more units, and that's what it is, right? So that's why it's all harder to comp fourplexes in general, right? Whereas in commercial, at least for me, at least, this personal opinion, I know I have control over that. Like I know exactly how much I think it's going to be worth in the future because I know what NOI we have.
Gotcha. Okay. That's
So there's a little more control. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Hi.
Jen, what's up? Good
How
seeing
are
ya.
you?
I
Yeah,
love the
yeah.
hyphen too. I love seeing that.
Yeah. It's official.
Yeah,
I changed my
yeah,
name.
it's a fish. Wow, love it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, my question was on cost segregations. Like, when is it worth it to do it? Like, I've heard about it, and it's like, yeah, like, I don't know. How did you start doing the cost segregation? Like, what are the like benefits from, I mean,
Yeah, okay. So
doing it or
I'm
not
gonna
doing
ex-
it?
I'm gonna try to explain it in a more simple way because it is a very complicated thing, right? But
Yeah.
so remind me, you're W-2, right? And is your husband W-2?
Or kind of, but for 1099 and W-2. Yeah.
Okay, got it. But you have a bunch of STRs. So I'll use you as a real example, right? So for
Yeah.
you have a bunch of STRs. So regardless if you have, a full-time W-2 or, full-time hours, you can use the STR loophole for it, right? And so,
Right.
um, and every type of asset, actually, here, I'm gonna pull the visual real quick so that we can just all look at this together.
Okay.
And this is gonna be really small, so hopefully you guys can see it. All right, so in every asset, for taxes, you're going to get a Schedule E, right? So
Yeah.
we're coming up on tax season, right? And in line 18 here is depreciation, right? So depreciation is not real money, right? It's
Right.
basically a tax code that says you can just write it off, right? Anything like lights and drywall, it's not worth the same, right? So you can write that off, but it's not real cash, right? It's made of cash, right? And so typically it's over a 27.5 year period. Now,
Right.
if you do a cost study, you can accelerate that into 5, 7, and 15 year periods, which you can basically take all of it almost at once, right? And so that, this number was $800, right? But that $3,800 all at once, that might be like 30 grand off, right? And so this is an expense, right? So then what will be a negative 30 grand instead, right? And so what that will happen is, your negative 30 grand will then bleed over to your active income, right? So your job at Netflix, for example, right? And so then basically what you're doing is you're taking 30 grand off of your active income as well, right? And so is it worth it? I am personally a believer in that cash up front is more valuable than cash down the road because is my dollar worth the same 27.5 years down the road? Hell no, right? Like, what was, 27.5 years ago was, well, that's crazy. It's almost in the 2000s, but 1990 something, right? And in 1990
Nice.
something, like, you go and buy, a carton of milk for, I don't know, like $1 or whatever, right? And now it's like, $5 or $8, whatever it is, right? And so my philosophy is, okay, you can save some of that money up front, right? And then, you can go buy more stuff with that and more assets that will beat inflation, right? And so when should you do it? My opinion is like, if you have something that you can do it with, you should do it, right? Because then you have more capital, right? And it also would say like, what's your long-term hold? Is it a long-term hold or not, right? And what you could do on that is, even if it's something that you do sell in the future, you can always 1031 exchange it to the next property and defer it, and you just keep on deferring it. And the saying is, you defer till you die, right? And when you die,
Right.
there's no step up basis for the asset, or there is a step up basis for the asset. So then your heirs don't get, cap gains tax on it. So really generational wealth, right? And, your kids and future kids will get that. So did that make sense? I kind of rambled off there for a second.
No, yeah, that was my second question. Like, what happens when you sell it if you depreciate it all and you obviously didn't keep it for 27 years or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
basically got to pay back the depreciation, right? If you
Got
just
it.
sell them to try to get it. But, again, it's
Yeah.
math
Okay.
equation, right?
Mhm.
But if you 1031 it and sell it, then you don't have to pay that.
Got it.
It just keeps on rolling, right?
Okay. And then I have one last question. Sorry, just because
Yeah.
we're on this, because obviously, maybe you talked about this in your other thing, but I know that depreciation was supposed to like step back, and now that like people are suggesting like maybe things will change, obviously because of the presidency. And so, yeah, what is your take on that? Or like with, yeah.
Yeah, I would say I don't have a crystal ball. It's my personal opinion as well. But
Yeah, yeah,
last
yeah.
year, so it's going to 40% bonus depreciation this year. Now, there was a bill last year that I think either one of the House or the Senate had passed to bring back 100% depreciation. And at the end, I think it was like in Q3, it didn't get passed because one of the parties was trying to throw in a bunch of other like laws in it to try to kind of
Right.
bundle it all. And so it didn't get passed. So that bill is circling back around this year. We'll see. I would never bank on it.
Yeah.
Um, but it goes up and down, right, of what it is.
Yeah.
So maybe new presidency, we'll see. But
Yeah.
I would evaluate it at 40% bonus depreciation. And if it gets better, cool. Cherry on top. Good for us.
For sure. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I know
Yeah.
that was a lot of
You're good.
snowball.
Hope you're all doing well now. Say hi to the husband
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah. Thank you.
All right. I'll go to Anthony real quick because I see your question. Anthony, you still on this call?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
What's up? Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So you want to ask your question so everyone can hear it, and I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, just wanted to, so I know we touched base like a couple months back. I was kind of moving over to like New York and everything to the States.
Yeah,
Actually,
dude.
kind of adding on to that question, I'll say this one first. For the cost strike, do you know if it impacts like Canadians? Do you have any kind of Canadian students or people that have been kind of using that strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have no idea about
Okay,
Canada.
no,
Sorry.
all good.
But
But yeah,
you probably know about the 5% loans out there, right? That's
yeah,
like
it's
the
terrible.
only, which is
That's why
insane. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm trying to get properties in the U.S.
Mhm.
But yeah, like what's the like? I'm kind of again like deep diving into this now and just trying to figure out what's the best like opportunity to find deals, and then also like how to find like proper property managers. Like 90% of like out of state investing, right? Because you want a good property
Yeah.
manager to figure out all these leaks and all these other
Yeah.
things that go on with the property.
Yeah. Okay, cool. How much time you got, man? Um,
Sure.
I'll kind of I'll go as detailed as I can today, all right? But I'm happy to have an offline conversation with you, man. But so best way to source, and this is what we have seen in our portfolio, right? So best way to source out of state deal is a couple ways, right? So three funnels, right? That will go into your deal lead flow, right? So number one is agents, right? So agents are always going to be, in my opinion, the best way to do it because I mean, they're out there grinding every day, right? They're making the phone calls, like, that's their full-time thing, right? So they're having all these conversations, and that's where, a seller or even a distressed seller will go first, right, as an agent.
Right.
So that's all, I would say, I don't know, like 60% of where our deals come from. 30% comes from networking,
Okay.
right? Networking with other people, right? Just like that all the fourplexes that we bought, right? We were just at a conference, right? You join masterminds, like, you get around other like-minded people that are doing stuff, the more likely you're going to run into. Right. And the third is off-market deal flow. We don't do this as much anymore because it's very time intensive for not a lot of deals, right? We used to do a lot of like texting campaigns and email stuff, but it's a lot of work for a lot of FUs, right? And you get that one diamond in the rough.
Sure.
So, again, I have all those funnels into one, right? Agents are obviously I'll caveat that with, you want to have good agents, right? Like, that's the most important part is your team. And, we kind of implement a strategy. And so it's kind of to your second question about property managers. I like to implement a strategy of trust and verify is the system there, right? So you fall to the systems that you have, right? You don't have systems, you're going to fall, right? So trust and verify mean that, okay, you can find a bunch of agents online, right? And all kind of like test them out, right? Like response time, communication, like their knowledge of the market, how they invest it themselves, what they think you can rent stuff out for, things like that. And what I'll do is I'll verify it, right? I'll verify with my own data and research, right? But then I'll maybe talk to a property manager and say, hey, cool property manager, this agent said this, like, what do you think this can rent out for real, right?
Right.
And if it's not aligned, then I don't know if I trust that agent anymore. My trust has been broken, right? Because they're just trying to sell me a deal versus are they being conservative? Are they really, looking out for my best interest, right? In general, because that's you want to partner for the long term. And same with property managers, right? So and contractors, right? So Mike, I see you on this call. Mike Domingo, I see you on this call, man. We're talking earlier today about contractors, right? And so, the trust and verify system goes with contractors as well, right? Like, okay, cool. Contractor says work is done. I trust you with your pictures, but I'm gonna verify with my property manager. The property manager can go there and do a punch list and actually check off that work has actually been done.
Right.
And if it has the quality, then I will release the funds, right? So you kind of get where I'm putting out here, Anthony, is like, you want to have a lot of different types of people, right? But then you want them to trust and verify with each other, checks and balances, if you will.
So I guess like if you're just kind of starting to look for assets, like you want to get as much agents as possible and then kind of just give like calls across like different ones. I mean, like how I've been kind of approaching it is like going bigger pockets and getting agents.
I wouldn't. I don't really love bigger pockets. I've only heard bad experiences with agents on bigger pockets. So I will do you one better, right?
Okay,
If
sure.
you know people are investing in the area, reach out to them, right?
Okay.
Referrals are the number one investing, right? And get a bunch of referrals. Let's say you want to like start investing in Dallas, Texas, for example, right? Like anyone that you freaking know there, like I'm calling them, right? Like, something
Right.
that is probably a pro and con about me is like, don't be afraid to pick up the freaking phone and just call anyone that you know. Hey, LinkedIn connection, cool. I knew you from high school. I'm gonna hit you up, right? Oh, I'm gonna DM you like, hey, hey, you're in Dallas. How is it, dude? Hey, great. Like, hey, by the way, man, I'm looking at actually buying some property out there. Do you know any agents out there? Right?
Right.
And they're gonna have a better chance of knowing someone that they trust more than you do because they live there. Hey, my friend actually is an agent and he knows someone, right? And then from there you start your web, right? Okay, that agent. Hey, agent, do you know a contractor that you trust and worked with? Okay, cool. I've gotten like contractors from my cleaner. I have no shame, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'll talk to my landscaper guy. I'd be like, hey, guy, do you have any contractors?
So everything's, I guess, just word of mouth then.
You're just calling. It's a big spider web, man. Like, so once you find one good person, rock stars know rock stars, right? So then you ask that rock star, hey, who do you know, right? And then your web starts, right? So,
Got it.
so yeah. And then to Mike over here, right? We're talking earlier, like have like systems in place, right? So again, you don't release any money to contractors unless your verified boots on the ground, right? Has verified that it's all up to snuff, right? Because then, your risk is almost low, right? Because, you're only paying for labor, not, and you're paying for material, you're keeping material on your own books, right? Essentially. And then, you're only paying for what's been done, right? And if they're a good contractor, right, they should, like a lot of contractors will run off your money. Like if you're not there, they'll take advantage of that. Like, I don't know, raise your hand if you've had that situation before. I've had a lot of those situations before, right? And so, what I've learned is like you definitely can't trust contractors. No offense to anyone with a contractor out here, but if you can create systems around them, you can at least keep them accountable, right? And you can be the CEO of your business, and just like an employee that's slacking, you can at least manage them.
Makes sense.
Cool. All right, brother, it was good to see you, man.
I could see you too.
Yeah. All right, Liz. Do you want to come off and ask your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you were leveraging any sort of tax advantaged accounts or infinite banking policies that you might have, and what your thoughts are around that.
Yeah, I love it. I get this question a lot, actually. Yeah, we use the infinite banking strategy with whole life cash insurance stuff, and I like it. I mean, I agree. It's great. I mean, you gotta understand what it's for, right? Like, are you familiar with? Obviously, you're familiar with it because it sounds like you've done it. Is that what you do for a living?
Oh, no, I've been looking into the whole life insurance policy for,
Okay.
gosh, a while now. So I'd
Okay.
like to pull the trigger on it and hopefully speak with somebody who actually has experience with
Okay.
it.
So let's talk about what it is and what it isn't, right? So it took me about same thing. It took me probably like 2 years of evaluating it to pull a trigger on it, because if you look at it as a return on investment, it's a terrible return on investment. All right. It's, real estate's way better, right? Anything else is way better. So, what it is it's a safety account, right? It's a safety account where you can leverage, basically a high yield savings account that grows, that your future generations will also have a death benefit, and that you can borrow that money and then beat it as well. So if you look at it like this, and just so for anyone who doesn't know what this is, it's a way to buy life insurance as an asset, right? So most people have term life insurance, right? That's your company will give you that. You'll pay a couple $100, maybe $20 a month, whatever it is. And you get life insurance that way, right? Older you get, the more you pay. that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is like, okay, you go beyond it, right? So my first policy, I paid premium wise like 24 grand a year, and now we pay like 100 grand a year on it, right? And what you do is you can pour in money into these policies, right? And maybe for the first 5, 7 years, it's not going to be equal, right? I might put in like 700 grand, but I'll only have like 650 grand of actual equity in it, right? So I'm not selling it right now, right? It's not something that I'm selling or even sell in general, but eventually, that will break even, right? And then you can stop, funding it, right? So from my policy, it's 7 years. So after 7 years, I could stop funding it, right? And we're in year 4 right now, right? And essentially, what will happen is it'll grow at 5% a year for the rest of my life, right? And then what I can do as well, along with it, is that I can borrow against it, right? And then use that for real estate deals, random other stuff. But I do pay an interest on it. Let's say my interest is 5%, right? Okay, well, I'm kind of breaking even there. But if I borrow against it at 5%, if I can beat it with a real estate deal and I get a 10% return, then now I'm arbitraging that I'm making 5% in this infinite banking concept, right? And I'm also making an additional 10% minus 5%, another 5% on what I borrowed against my own policy, right? And on top of that, I'm also getting a death benefit for my heirs, right? And so what it is it's for us, it's a safety account. It's a way for us to have cash if we need it. We also grow that. It's a bank account that grows for us. What it isn't is not an investment vehicle, right? Unless you use a variable one, which I don't, that's just, you can if you want to, it's a different story, but, which you invest in the market and you kind of go up and down with the market. But, my opinion on that is you should have it eventually, but I would build other asset classes first before you do that. I think it's something that everyone should have eventually, but it's not the first thing I would do. It's not the second thing I would do. It's like the 10th thing I would do. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. I'll go with Rebecca here. What's your take on auctions? My take on auctions is if you are ready to commit 100% of your time to auctions, then it could work, right? But what happens at auctions there are people that do that for a living, right? And what that means is that they know every property is on the auction block. They've driven it, they've looked in the windows, they've had a contractor with them, they know all the numbers and what the maximum offer they're going to do on that one. So if that's the type of work that you want to do, you go pick up a deal at auction for, a good price, you can, right? But you're going to be playing with those other big boys that make their living off it. So it better be a full-time thing that you do it. I'd encourage you to go to an auction. It's all cash, by the way. You got to bring like 5K increments of cashier's checks, right? To it. So got to be pretty capitalized, I would say, on it. And, yeah, it's it's definitely a potential way, but, I've also had friends that have done it and, have not understanding what they have bought. And then they have 11, right, on your hands, right? So that's never fun either. So Rebecca, I think like anything in life, if you fully commit to it and I would urge you to go to a bunch of them before you even think about, buying one at auction. Just go there. You'll see who the real players are. I would actually, bug the crap out of them if it's something that you really like doing and like see yourself doing in the future, and just see what their process is and then copy exactly their process. But most of their process is they have a team that goes out and looks at all these properties beforehand and they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Cool. And Lena, following on Liz's question, how do you know, how and when do you know what's a good strategy for you? Isn't that the bajillion-dollar question? So I would say there are a few different factors that are for everyone, right? And so obviously what your income and expenses are, right? Or your financial situation, what your risk tolerance is, what your lifestyle is, how much time you have. Do you have a bunch of kids? You don't have kids, all that stuff. And then how capitalized are you, right? And so all those factors will kind of dictate like, okay, what actually makes a deal or strategy right for me. And I'll say, looking back at my own journey, man, there were some things that I probably could have done differently, should have done differently if I knew what I knew now. And so I'm happy to have a high level conversation with you offline if you want to just like ping me or DM me or something like that. And just chat through, what that could be for you. Because everyone here is going to be different, right? Without knowing a little bit more what's under the hood, um, getting to know you a little better, then I wouldn't feel right about giving you any kind of advice like that until I actually know. So happy to talk to you offline.
Hey, Kevin, I have a question. It's a follow-up question
Andrew,
to my.
you again, dude?
Yeah, it's me again. It's a follow-up to my earlier question. Since, like there's a lot of benefits to having a residential loan over a commercial loan, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
fixed, it's, lower interest rates and all. I was just thinking a little bit more about what you said. Like, could someone buy four quadplexes, so totaling 16? So you have the
Yeah.
benefit of using a residential loan over 30 years. And then when you're ready to sell it as a bundle, like you were saying earlier, turn that into a commercial
Yeah.
building. And then now, when you do that, does that get evaluated as a commercial? Like your evaluation will be just like the other
Yeah.
ones, then
Yeah, but you have safety in the loan. Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
I think that would be an awesome strategy. You could find, four places in a row that are selling, right? So for us,
Mm.
it was like three was one seller, another one was another seller. We bought them staggered, like months at a time, right? So it's possible, right? And truthfully, there's I think 6 buildings in that whole area that I'm trying to, and there's 2 more that, or 3 more that I would like to buy, right? But
Mhm.
because I think that would help me be able to control the whole block kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, a caveat is, yeah, if you can, I think, yeah, that'd be ideal.
So is that like a little hack then? Like, you got the loan for a lower rate. It's a little bit safer, but then you're selling as a commercial. I guess, like you said, the caveat is if you're able to sell it as a whole bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let me just say one more thing on that. Yes, all that is true. You got to make sure though that you're buying things that the parcels are touching, right? Because if you try to sell that as a commercial deal, the buyer on that side, he won't be able to get a commercial loan on it. If it's not, or he can get okay, let me rephrase that. He can get probably a regional bank loan on that, but he won't be able to get a Fannie Freddie commercial loan, right? Fannie Freddie only wants touching, continuous,
Okay.
property, right? So yes, Andrew, all you're saying is true. You can get that, and the parcels are touching 100%, right? But just know on the exit side, just if it's just one property in between your properties, they might have a harder time getting a loan on a commercial side, right? So that just kind of make sure that that's part of the your strategy there.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we got probably time for one more question and then a couple takeaways. So what we got, guys? One more question. Who wants it? Not Andrew, though. No offense, Andrew. All right, Alex. What's up, Alex?
Hi, Calvin.
Hey, hey.
Thanks for this. This is super exciting, super helpful. I had a question around the Inflation Reduction Act, and if you know of anyone or if you have done any of them to get rebates for your investment properties, because given the topic like the energy bills or water bills, my energy bill is like insane this month for my Airbnb. And so I'm considering, what are the things that I can do to reduce that besides, efficient toilets?
Yeah. We've done solar and a lot of investment properties as well. So again, mathematical equation on it. Solar does cost money, but you can depreciate that as well. All right. So it is a nice little tax write-off of it too. And then, so kind of back to like, for example, you have an investment property that's a multifamily, right? And you pay for electricity. That's maybe part of your stuff. And this is something that we were looking into at one point for one of the buildings that we do pay electricity for. And it's like, all right, what if we pay solar? What do we pay for solar, right? And we, I think quote was like 40 grand, 40 grand to put solar on our buildings, and that will reduce our electricity bill by 75, 80%, right? But that increases our NOI by that amount too. So does that actually make sense to us? Now, time actually, it was pretty close. We actually ended up not doing it, but on that building, but we just decided to just not electricity or tenants instead. But it was definitely something that we were like, wow, this is seriously, would be a cool idea. And we didn't do that back. So that's probably the only thing right now that we have done in terms of that, besides the toilets and LED lights and that kind of efficiency package stuff. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I guess it's just like a numbers game if, or like calculating the numbers if the solar panels as a capex would make sense for you.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. That's the funnest part about this. Like you're like, oh, cool. Like, how can I make it work? Like, oh, is that okay? Like, if I do that, I get a code. Like, does that actually make my product worth more? Is that worth it? Like, oh, cool, it does. All right, great. Like, let's do it. Right. So yeah, this is the fun part about it. Like, you know, energy costs, insurance costs, those are things that are fixed that are going up a lot right now, or not really control. Let me touch on the insurance piece too for everyone here, because I'm sure everyone's going through the same thing that we're going through too. Please, please, please understand when your renewals are, and 3 months out, start bugging your brokers with it. I have my VA bug my broker every week. Hey, you getting a quote yet? Hey, you getting a quote yet? Hey, you got a quote? You got a quote? And then the one thing I actually noticed is check the data that they're submitting to the insurance carriers, because what I found is that like 75% of the data that we're submitting is incorrect, right? And making my insurance more, right? So double check that. That's something that is new, and insurance is not getting cheaper. I hate it. It's like a freaking monopoly, but if you just put a little bit of work into it, it goes a long way. So cool, cool, cool. All right. I was going to end this with a couple takeaways. So, Mike, I see you on camera. What's your big takeaway today?
Yeah, just we're texting back and forth today, and after like you kind of get a gut punch from your contractor, had to fire one and hire a new one, just like the stuff that you taught me or sent over to me. I already implemented some of that stuff on a new flip that we're doing. So again, sucks. He hates to lose money, but it is like a learning tax. Uh, and you sharing your story earlier about, I heard it before, but hearing it again today, just now kind of hits home like, it's a kind of a baptism by fire, sort of like everybody goes through it. You could either take it and just give up or just keep powering through it. So, we got some bad news today, but we keep powering through it. And in the end, you learn from it, you implement stuff so that make sure it doesn't happen again. It may, you can never truly get rid of all the risk, but mitigate the risk. Yeah. Do it everything that you can to protect yourself, and then minimize the downside, and hopefully there's a bigger upside, and we just keep going. So yeah, thanks for sharing, and then thanks for sharing your time and your knowledge, especially like on a day to day. It helps you keep going, and again, that's also the value of community, because like I'm a one man show right now, so it helps to kind of be able to bounce some stuff off of people, be in a community with like-minded people, so that you keep that support to keep going. So yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And like you said, yeah, I want to point out that real quick. It can be very lonely, guys, in this, as you all know. So, if you ever need anything, like, community is everything. It's like the entrepreneur's kind of dilemma is like, like, oh, cool, I did it. And then you're like, no one's there to high five you kind of thing. You're like, oh, crap. And then same with the bad parts. So you're like, oh, man, like, this sucks. And you have no one to talk to about it. But like, even hearing you, Mike, talk about it, it's like, yeah, just like, I'm glad I was able to reach out to you, man, today, because, just like, we've all been through those issues and those problems, and it's reassuring that you're like, hey, cool, like this is just part of it, and almost to say normal, right? And to grow a thick skin from it, things don't bother me anymore, right? So
yeah, kind of learning that. So again, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got one more to end it. I'm gonna go over to Elena, because I haven't seen your face, and I'd love to see your face today. But big takeaway today.
Big takeaway. I think what takeaway is from this is we all have an advantage, and out of the two of the three, time, knowledge, or capital, I have a ton of screen time, but I have to say with that caveat, I've been grossly studying this type of investing style versus swing trading, which I've been kind of dabbling in for the last year and kind of comparing the two. So my screen time is an education. So I feel like I'm just fully engrossing in that. But between the time and the knowledge and the capital, as long as we have two of those three, there's always going to be a way to make it work. And as long as we connect with the right people, I can make this work. So that's
Yes,
mine.
I love it. I love that. Yes, you gotta have two of them, but it sounds like you have two of them. Always happy to enhance that knowledge even more, Elena, so that you can
Let's
find
do it.
partners that have the capital.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, amazing first call 2025. I wish you guys all an amazing, fantastic year. For those of you I don't know, please reach out. I'm trying to create more desks with anyone and everyone. So I would love to have a conversation with y'all. And other than that, happy 2025 and make this the best year ever, guys. Take care.